we see the...
Hello everyone, thank you all for coming on this beautiful day. It looks like the weather is going to cooperate with us after all, which is a good thing.
I'm wondering whether you can actually get up on stage.
Do you remember that in New York, London to Jakarta, all the way down to Durban, South Africa, took over the streets to say no to war on Iraq, no to unilateralism, and no to empire. You remember that day, right? I remember being in Hollywood amongst the stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and I remember seeing moms with their little kids in strollers. And those kids weren't old enough to understand the great awe-inspiring spectacle of civil disobedience before their very eyes. But when they get a little older, they're going to learn that their moms put their love for them, for the children of women and men all over the world on the global public record. That they're elect a clear mandate to do so. We did that. And now he has said we're going to end the war, but we cannot stop agitating until every soldier, every contractor, dare I say every base, leaves Iraq for Iraqis themselves. No backtracking allowed on that one. The environment, let us say, is different compared to 6 years ago. Since taking office, President Obama has embraced a nuclear abolition agenda. He has changed somewhat, but we still need to push him harder on the U.S. approach to counter. And by all accounts, it's going to cost more to stabilize Afghanistan than it is Iraq. So clearly we in the peace movement have our work cut out for us. But to conclude, I want to say that by invoking the spirit of February 15, 2003, along with the jubilation that we and the entire world felt last year when we elected this president, we have even more of a responsibility to hold President Obama accountable to his promise for change. What other excuse? We're all here and we're all ready to go. We want to repair the damage of the last decade. We want to rebuild America's capabilities at home. And
Thank you, Farah. And next we will hear from a woman whose son he just finished 2 tours of duty in Iraq. And she is a woman who's been with us going through the halls of Congress for a long time, telling the Congress people, bring our soldiers home. This woman has inspired many of us in Code Pink because she has been tenacious and come back time and time again when Congress wasn't interested in listening, and came back again and again and again. And it's women like her that are really going to bring about the change we need to see. And it's women like her who we honor on Mother's Day. And when she came and said hello today, she said she's got some good news, which is, although her son was supposed to be another 6 months in Iraq, he came home 5 days ago. And even better news, that this young man with the young wife was about to have his first child and wasn't given the hope of seeing his baby born. Well, their child was born 2 days after he came home. And Cynthia Benjamin now has a 3-day-old granddaughter, her first granddaughter. So give a big, big hand to Cynthia Benjamin and a happy, happy Mother's Day to you.
I love you. I love you all. Thank you all.
Thank you very much for what you do for our soldiers. This is a Mother's Day story. Doesn't sound like it, but it turns out to be one. As you heard, my name's Cynthia Benjamin, My son Jess is a soldier, twice deployed to Iraq, and I come to D.C. often to protest this war. In March, I was here for a week working with Code Pink to mark the beginning of the 7th year of this abomination in Iraq. One of the events I participated in was a March of the Dead organized by our Spring Break, a group of very tenacious and brave young adults. We were all dressed in black and we were wearing faceless white masks to symbolize the faceless dead. There you go. Each of us also wore a placard with the name of an Iraqi or an American who'd been killed in Iraq. One of the organizers had asked us to walk in silence, and not just to represent, but to actually be the person whose name we carried. Accompanied by a single solemn drumbeat, the march was very long and emotionally powerful. As we made our way past more war memorials, monuments, up along the mall and up to Capitol Hill, I tried really hard to be the 21-year-old soldier whose name I wore. This man had been born and raised a few miles from my home, and he had died in Iraq not 3 weeks earlier, devastating an entire community. But my mind and my heart kept reaching out to his mother, and I became her. By the time we reached the Capitol building, we'd gathered quite a large contingency of Capitol Police, as you can imagine, and an even larger crowd of spectators. This action culminated on the plaza at the Capitol's new Visitors Center, and we formed a circle, and facing each other, we silently removed our masks. When I looked around at this circle of beautiful young faces, I was overwhelmed by grief, knowing that my government viewed each of these children, these promises, as old enough to die in this war, and I began to sob. As the circle broke up, I walked along the line of police surrounding us, and then along the line of spectators, holding up my soldier, Michael Maine's name, to each of them to read. The crowd was silent. I eventually made my way to my congressman's office, where I was made to leave Michael's name outside, see no evil, and then to my senator's office, where again I was not allowed to wear his name. But I did voice my grievances about this war. Deeply saddened and feeling bereft, I wound up at Union Station on a bench in the Great Hall. If any of you know Union Station, it's this crowded crush of rushing humanity, and I sought to escape and I sought some anonymity, but that was not to be, because this was my lucky day, as it turned out. As I sat contemplating my shoelaces, fighting back tears, I felt a presence. When I looked up across this crowded hall, a woman was walking toward me. She was obviously homeless. She had tattered clothes and shopping bags and her hair stuffed up under a ragged scarf. And she was walking toward me with purpose. She was unhesitating and she was gazing right into my face. As she stood before me, I'm going to go back a second to this thought. She had found me. This woman who had nothing had found me, and at that moment I had even less. She stopped, she smiled down at me, and she held out her hand, and she said, "Here, maybe you should have this." And she handed me a beautiful green apple. I took the apple, she turned and shuffled off, and she got swallowed up in the crowd, and she disappeared. But as she left, I was uplifted, and I found myself smiling. So I've never lost sight of this woman. I'm certain of this. She's somebody's mother, and she inspired these thoughts in me. We are mothers. We won't stand idly by while our villages are bombed and our homes are destroyed and our babies are murdered. We are mothers. We're not afraid to speak truth to power. We're not afraid to risk our lives for our children. We are mothers, and whether by teaching our children peace, protesting an illegal and immoral war, or by offering hope in the form of a little green apple, we are making this world a better and more peaceful place. We are the world's mothers, and as long as a mother walks the face of this earth, none of us is alone. So, happy Mother's Day, and in the words of my 7-year-old friend Gabby, peace to all. Peace to all.